Thank you, Mark. Hello, everybody. And thanks also to Kat Esposito, who's been helping behind the scenes every day to help bring this practice forward, and Rebecca Schisler, who is my colleague and collaborator in all that we're diving into this week. So on the theme of appreciations, Mark, you mentioned Rabbi Dr. Aaron Lieb-Smokler earlier in referring to our text study, our weekly text study through IJS. And I just want to take a moment to offer gratitude and appreciation for Aaron's teachings. It's through Aaron Smokler's teaching about the Sfat Emet in the weekly Torah portion that this practice that we've been working with, the rubric of Shmiya, Shmirah, and Asiyah, receptive listening, pausing, before then moving towards hopefully wise and skillful action. This rubric is lifted up from the Sfat Emet's teachings as offered by Aaron Smokler in the teaching on the week of Parshat Ekev. So with that, I want to jump right in and continue in our journey of refining what it means to practice mindfulness for each of us differently, but to embody sacred listening, Shmiya Hapnimut, deep inner awareness-filled listening, listening in our hearts. And today also we'll focus especially on the neshama, the soul within us. So we've focused on Monday, we grounded in awareness of listening through our bodies and to our bodies, the sensations, the information, the aliveness in the physical realm of our experience. And then we moved into, on Tuesday, the realm of emotional experience, feeling states as they come and go, and how we can practice staying attentive, deeply listening for the wisdom, and also the impermanent nature of the dynamic nature of the changing states of emotional lives that live many times a moment within us. And then yesterday, Rebecca Schisler helped us focus on becoming aware of, through Shmiya and Shmirah, waiting and pausing, the practice of bearing witness to thoughts, intellectual energy that moves through us, thoughts, ideas, judgments, assessments. And today we come to that fourth realm or dimension of awareness or consciousness, the realm of spirit or soul, and how we listen and abide in Shmiya and Shmirah, the realm of the soul within us, and that level of or dimension or aspect of our consciousness. And I'd like to pause right here and say that you might, to suggest, or at least create the space for awareness that as I say the word soul, or one of the Hebrew words for soul, neshama, you might have had many reactions or responses within you. There may have been a lot of intellectual activity, a lot of thoughts, associations, wonderings, judgments. You might have had feeling state associations that arise when soul is mentioned, or somatic experiences, physical, visceral responses. So just to note that possibility, and to say at the outset, at least in my experience, soul, by whatever name, how we engage it, to put this reality or aspect of reality into language is challenging, because it so easily can move into concept, into the intellectual realm, right? So I want to give us permission, actually invite us as we practice today, to pay attention to whatever associations, or preferences, or resistances, or ideas about soul may arise for you, or perhaps expectations about what should happen as we focus on each of us, the neshama, the soul dimension of our lives. And so we watch the mind doing its thing. We watch the feelings come and go. We watch our bodies respond as they will. Notice with kindness. We breathe into a spaciousness of heart, kind of that big sky that Rebecca Schisler mentioned yesterday, the big sky of awareness that everything like clouds passes through. And in a sense, I want to suggest that that big sky awareness itself is one way in to begin to engage through that portal of what we mean by soul. That abiding awareness that is filled with aliveness and eternity, right there in the same breath. And that brings us to another aspect, and it's the piece I'd like to mention before we move into focusing on Shmirah. And that is when I say that soul is an aspect that is like abiding awareness and that paradox of ever-changing and eternal at the same time. That's a mystery, a paradox. And that is, in my experience, the realm of soulfulness is the realm of mystery. And this isn't like a mystery novel or a movie where by the end of the narrative, we're to solve it. This mystery isn't to be solved. I suggest that it's rather to be encountered, and that our practice helps us deepen and expand our capacity, sort of that muscle of attention, attending to the awareness that's always here, but engaging it in that realm, on that edge of mystery to be encountered. Which means for some of us, many of us, in my human experience anyway, when we come to that edge, that lip of where we know and then where we don't know, because by definition, mystery is not knowing. There's a vulnerability, right? Like, I'll share with you that when, for example, the moment I was blessed to be sitting by my mother, holding her hand a couple years ago, when she died. At that moment where that last breath left her body, the body was still there. My mother was still there. Soul, whatever that is, felt present. But boy, did it feel like I was right there in mystery. Alive, not alive, one breath, a hair's breath. Where'd it go? And there it is. You know, that memory that I've just shared with you fills me often when I think about this realm of mystery of the soul. And it is that edgy, if you will. It puts us right up to the edge of where impermanence and eternality, our finite existence and what is not ephemeral, abiding awareness, where they touch. And in some mysterious way, that edge of experience is where we sit in the process of Shmirah. Shmirah is after we've heard and received a moment, words, something deeply that we've heard deeply. What do? We, especially if it takes us into the realm of mystery, there might be a quite natural human tendency to want to shut down or to explain it away, right? To leave or to diminish its vastness in some way to make it sizable, right? It's natural. That's not like a bad thing if we notice the mind judging. It's what personality and our conscious selves are wired to do. But in this practice of Shmirah, it's inviting us to abide a little bit longer and a little bit longer in the pause before we jump to what we do. To pause in the being, in the presence of of the most sacred mysteries of life and death, where whatever soul, and I'm putting that word, that English word in quotation marks, what this realm of this dimension of experience is, it's in that realm of mysteries, right there at the edge. And so to bring this back to the Sfat Emet, it's interesting that to me, it's interesting, maybe you'll find this interesting and intriguing, that the Sfat Emet says about Shmirah as that in-between stage after Shmiyah, the deep hearing, and before the Asiyah, the conscious response, active more in the outer world, that Shmirah is especially for the sake of the soul. And it's a practice, he says, that takes place in the soul. And so it's very interesting to me. We may not know what happens in that pause, but that we do it and let that resonant sort of reverberation happen without needing to explain it or run from it or downsize it. We just be in it. Something happens in the growth, evolution, and cultivation of the soul in that shmirah that is ours to do. So I want to invite us today to, as we sit in our practice, in the space, in the pause between the words and the doing, I want to invite you, as much as is comfortable and possible today, to sit in the pause for the sake of your soul, for the sake of that within you, which lives in that nexus between what's known and what is utterly mysterious, before, after, around, and in between, all the ways we can try to make meaning of the vastness that exists beyond all that we place on it. Because when we can inform our attending to that language making, meaning making, wise action making in a way that's rooted in this capacity to sit in the not knowing, according to the Sfat Emet and my sense of what Torah wisdom is to teach us, is then we can root it in a way that's rooted in love. Love, in the sense that love takes us out of those places of control where sometimes by fear, motivated by fear, right? We want to explain and, again, make palatable. Not saying that's wrong or bad, but to say there is a way in which love is connected to the mysteries of life and death, just staying connected, staying open, staying relational. So if I'm going to pause right there on that, invite you to take a breath. Release the breath. And allow yourself to become aware of your body right now. And just let the feeling states that accompany bodily awareness also into your consciousness. And whatever thoughts, ideas, concepts might be passing through, just to notice them. And if we could, if you would please bring that text sheet up, I'd like to share with you briefly, everybody. We'll go in. This page will be available for you in the Dropbox, and there'll be a link after, so you can look at this in more detail. But I'd like to, if you could scroll down just a little bit. This is just so you'll have the Shmiyah, Shmirah, and Asiyah, our framework to go back to. But the second part here of part one, where the words of the Shema from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4, if you'll look at this right here, if Kat, if you could scroll it up even just a little bit more, or Mark, I'm not sure which one of you has this. Oh, no. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So Erin Smokler, in her commentary on the Sfat Emet's commentary on this, in this Torah portion, Akev, Erin writes, listening leads to loving, it seems. Or perhaps listening is a prerequisite for the capacity to love. And this is in kind of a contemplative reflection about the words of the Shema, which the same roots of which, the Shin, Mem, and Ayin, Shmiya, deep listening, receptive listening. So when we come to the Shema, we come right to the mystery of the soul. Listen, hear, Israel. Adonai Eloheinu, one of the words of God, Adonai Eloheinu, another word of God, in the possessive form. God is our God, particular, tribal, personal, relational, diverse. And God is one, indivisible, undifferentiated, all there is. So that's a paradox. That's a pretty big mystery right there that we're supposed to listen to. We're instructed to listen deeply. And that this listening leads somehow to loving. When we're up against the mysteries of life and death, diversity, difference, fragmentation, and oneness in the same breath, the same thought, how does the mind comprehend that that's simultaneously all true? But there we are. And so I thought to take us into our sit, our quiet, into the quiet, as we will, and Richard Shiner, thank you so much. In just another few moments, we'll blow the shofar for us as we transition into the silence. But before we do, as a kind of mantra to anchor the mind, to open us to the soul dimension of this mysterious paradox of the oneness that pervades all in some mysterious way, without oversimplifying, incorrectly dominating one idea over another, one being or expression over, right? Somehow holding all of it, that's a way of loving. So I invite you to, we're muted. So we have this paradox now of muting and speaking. So into the silence that we communally hear, I invite you now to pause, and I'll mute myself too, and I'll do this with you, to speak aloud the Hebrew words of the Shema, and then say it again with the English translation I'm suggesting. Listen deeply, and then add your name. Put your name there. Listen deeply, Myriam. Listen deeply, Mark. Listen deeply, Linda, Joan, Barbara. Listen deeply, self. Love is ours. Adonai Eloheinu. Love is ours, and love is all there is. And then we'll hear the shofar being blown, and then we'll sit with whatever has arisen for you, and then whatever arises as you sit in the patient abiding of Shmirah, guarding, minding, being in the pause for the sake of the growth of your soul, your personhood, your aliveness, your loving. Okay. So I'm going to mute myself in just a moment, and I invite us all together to first, in our own ways, say the Shema words in the Hebrew, the transliteration is there, and then to repeat it in the English, inserting your name, hearing as you speak. So receiving the next breath in and out. Richard, as you're ready, if you could please offer us the blows, the blasts of the shofar. And into the reverberations in the silence of those cries, those sounds, those words. Let's rest. Let's abide. Breath, your body, this moment held in the eternal mysteries right here, right now. We'll take another few moments to sit in the quiet. And you can, if you find your mind wandering or thinking or in other ways, not present so much, wonderful moment to just return gently to breath, neshima, as we pause and listen and allow neshama, soul, to be the focus of our awareness, our attention, perhaps our love. And if you like, you can allow the next breath in to be a full, deep one, filling the belly and filling the lungs, saturating your heart with fresh oxygen. And through the mouth, if you like, you can let the breath release. And when you're ready, you can let your eyes slowly open, the lids fluttering, maybe taking a moment or two to allow your eyes to make their way back to focus here with us together.
Thank you so much, Myriam, for that extraordinary teaching and practice. And let's seal that practice as we do each day by offering those of you who are observing a yard site or in mourning, or if it's your custom to participate in Kaddish, to recite the Kaddish. And if you're not reciting Kaddish, simply to stay with that loving presence that Myriam led us into in support of those who are. You're invited to put the name or names of those you're remembering today in the chat. Today I am remembering and honoring the memory of my grandmother, Bessie Margolius, and invite others who are observing as well to join me by rising in body or in spirit. And thanks to Kat for sharing the words of Kaddish on the screen. Yit Gadal, Yitadash, Shemei Rabbi.
Amen.
Amad Yirach Yirutei V'Yamlich Malchutei V'Yichu V'Yamechu V'Chayei V'Chol Beit Yisrael V'Agalat V'Zman Kariv V'Yimru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Olam Ulamei Almayim
Yitbarach,
Yisharach Yishabach V'Har V'Yitlam V'Yitasei
Yitadar,
Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shemei Brichu
Rom Kol
Kol Birchatav
Birchata,
Shirata V'Nechem Amotav Iran
Imam
Ba'alma
Biyamba
Yimru
Biyamaru Amen.
Hey
Shalom
Shlama
Rabba
Rabba
Min
Min
Shemaya,
Shemaya
Yisraelenu,
Yisrael
Makol
Yimru
Yisrael,
Amen
Amen.
Shalom
Aseh
B'Malav
Shalom B'Malav,
Yosef Shalom
Aseh
Aleinu V'Yal Kol
Shalom
Yisrael
Aleinu,
V'Yal Kol
V'Kol
Yosef Israel
Yisrael, V'Kol
Yimru
Beit Babel, Biyamaru Amen.
And friends, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank our teacher, Myriam. I want to thank you, especially since you won't be with us tomorrow. I just want to thank you for conceiving of and creating this really beautiful week of practice to close out our week of practicing Shemitah and release in this year 5782. We'll be led tomorrow by Rebecca Schisler, who'll be back, who led us yesterday so beautifully. Be back tomorrow to close out the week of practice together. But I want to take the moment just to thank you and offer you kavod and honor for incredible teaching and leadership this week. Thank you so much. And of course, thanks to Pat Scala, who sponsored our practice today in loving memory of her mom, Dorothy Scala, in observance of her yard site. And as always, thanks to Kat Esposito for holding our tech mishkan, our sanctuary, with grace and skill. And of course, if you're leaving us now, we hope you'll join us tomorrow to close out our week of practice and sit into Shabbat and sit into the end of this year 5782. Rebecca Shesta will lead us in practice tomorrow. And just a reminder as well that, of course, next week we will not be meeting live on Monday or Tuesday, day 1 and day 2 of Rosh Hashanah. If we won't see you until the new year, I want to wish you a Shana Tova U'Metuka, good and sweet year. If you're able to stay on for conversation with Myriam about today's practice, you are more than welcome to do so. We hope you will. And if you have a question to put to Myriam, please put it in the chat box and preface it by writing question. Whew. That was some deep teaching in Torah there, my friend. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to keep an eye on the questions, but I have a question that bubbled up. I also, it's just a beautiful flow, but I was particularly taken by one piece of the teaching, Myriam, when you introduced, that today was about listening deeply in the realm of soul, and you introduced, some different ways that people can understand that, depending on how people react to the word soul, right? So you introduced like mystery, not knowing, the realm of not knowing. And then you also really beautifully pointed out that is a scary place to go. It is our nature not to want to go there. It's our nature to want to know for any number of reasons. We don't have to conjecture about that, but it just highlighted for me how much of this practice that you've laid out beautifully this week is about trying to stay with the intention and the practice of not attaching to any of the things we've talked about, not attaching to the body, not attaching to the emotion, not attaching yesterday to the thought, and today not attaching to knowing. And that if we're able to do that, even for a moment, right? Here's the premise that I got. If we're able to, if we are willing and brave enough to do that, there is a wisdom embedded in the mystery that will rise to the surface if we allow it to. It's like it will come up and it will express itself through love. So first of all, I just want to say, like, if just to reiterate your teaching, did I reflect back well? How was that for listening? Say that.
Mark? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. It all bears repeating, but especially that moment that this shmirah idea is really like what I hear that is as a phrase, as a mantra that says, don't attach, don't attach, don't attach, don't attach, let it go, keep letting go, keep peeling the onion. But there is a question about, in the translation of the Shema of Adonai as love, I got to scroll back up. This is Gail's question. Replacing Adonai with love in the Shema implies to me that Adonai is love, or Yud He Vav He is love. You want to say something about that? Are we suggesting that, I guess, that the divine is synonymous with love? The translation kind of suggests that, right?
Yeah.
Love is all there is.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm suggesting. And based on you said it so beautifully and succinctly, Mark, and clearly what you mirrored back. Truly, I feel seen and heard. I feel heard. No, but truly, in my experience, that really is what it's all about at the end of the day, in the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
The one of the words for God that some observant Jewish communities will refer to that 3-letter English word God, God, Hashem, the name, referring to the nameless one, the one who is beyond the one that which is beyond concept, and therefore naming that limits in a certain way. Or any certain way, because that would leave other parts out. And whatever it is that when I think of love, when I feel love, which is a 4-letter English word, it's that which is beyond, ideas. It's beyond the dialectic of self and other, even though differentiation to express love in a healthy and conscious way or receive love, also acknowledges you're you and I'm me. And all of us here on the screen right now, or each of us, wherever we are, whenever we're listening to this, seeing it, whatnot. But what is that energy that connects? What is that energy that causes all of this relational aliveness? And I'm willing to say that is love. That is ultimately, name beyond concept, beyond momentary experiential, but that's the little way in, that for me opens it up into the heart and wholeness that I experience in the best way I can when I experience that and can live into that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Beautiful.
But can I say one more thing? Can I say one more thing?
Please. Yeah.
That when the power of the Shema for me as a kind of mantra or a practice to hang my hat on, to focus my awareness on, is that when I get kind of closed off into fear or othering, when I don't know what's on the other side of the door, literally, or, the other side of the aisle, can contract in my awareness, my feeling state. So if I can remember through the Shema in this way of relating to it, that it's all love, and each one is a being, each one of us is a being and a bearer of love in the neshama mystery realms, then I have half a chance of, calming the nervous system or opening the nervous system differently, and then being in that place of love, and so that I can discern, loving actions, or actions that versions of myself, as you've taught me to say, and think about the version of myself that I'd like to be when I respond.
There's a really great, I think, very practical question by Lester Shane here on, in terms of practice, just like a practice suggestion, right? Very, very concrete.
Mm-hmm.
How do you anchor? We talk about these different anchors: anchoring in the body, anchoring in the breath, anchoring even in, the mind or sensation. How do you anchor on the sense of soul? How do we, what might one choose to anchor on to do that? It's a great question.
It's a great question. That's why I think it's very difficult, because it is so unanchorable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that, first of all, to name that, then what can be some focal points? One is Laura, thank you, Laura Hegfield just wrote breath. So that, this word for soul, one of the words of soul, mm-hmm, in Hebrew, neshama, as I sort of offered, and as we came to a close of our practice, is related, the same root as the word neshima, breath. So in some concrete way, that's ultimately a mystery, breath, that least concrete, but still palpable. If you go outside when it's super cold and you exhale, you can actually see the steam of breath. So that mystery that's both physical, but not, because without breath, can't live for very long physically, right? So you can focal point on breath coming in and out of the body, if that's comfortable for you to do so, or on a word, of a name of God, or the word itself in Hebrew, neshama, or shama. And the reason I say this, it's like those are not the soul itself, but they with the intention that we set, they can anchor the mind and orient our attention. And then there's the shmirah, which is open, receptive. I'm just open. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what I'm going to experience next. And in that way, as Rebecca, I thought, beautifully suggested yesterday, the cup has to kind of empty if we're going to receive something new. So we can't know what we're going to encounter. We set ourselves down, and we wait. And so we do these practice, like focus on breath, focus on a name or a phrase,
Mhm.
to help the mind, to help the body, to help our emotions kind of land somewhere. But then it's about then waiting, open attention for what may stir. And I don't know, I can't remain in my integrity if I were to try to explain that away. I can't, because
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what's making me think? First of all, I also wanted to thank you for for being willing to share so personally and be vulnerable about your mom and, that moment. So, but I guess maybe because you mentioned that, and I see Sandy also mentioned that, and I'm sure there are others here who have been with loved ones when they've breathed their last. And also thinking about that Yom Kippur, coming up on Yom Kippur, and the role of Shema at the end of Yom Kippur. When we say Shema, everybody says at the end of Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur, that's where we're all headed, to that Shema, which is essentially our deathbed Shema, or the one that we say. So what I was thinking, Myriam, was that actually saying, and that Laura's mentioned the breath, was that when I focus on my breath, I'm mostly focusing on, it's coming and going, it's coming and going, and coming and going. The back of my head, there's also this sense of, I don't know if it's going to come, and that maybe that place of mystery, which I don't want to face, I don't really want to think about, because I push that away. Of course it's going to come. Don't worry. But that's the place where I realize that I am breathing.
Yeah.
But I'm not my breath either. There's also something there, and that does bring me into the realm of soul, I think, in some ways. So I just wanted to, I don't know, add that. I don't know if that's helpful for folks or not, but I think to have something specific, like you were saying, it's like, yes, I'm receiving the breath as it comes. I'm receiving it as expression of love, and it isn't a given. And one day it won't be there.
That's right. And I say that's right. Like, yes, of course. Right. So then,
Mm-hmm.
and this, I don't want to, spoiler alert for tomorrow, but sort of the question that begs is, how then shall we live?
Right. Right.
And
well, there's nothing more Yom Kippur than that. That's really it. That's Yom Kippur in a nutshell right there, right?
Yeah.
All right. We're a little bit over time. Thank you, Myriam, so much. Really. That was just spectacular. And thanks, Kat. Thank you, Pat, for sponsoring our amazing practice today. Reminder, in 45 minutes, you get to learn with Rabbi Aaron Leach-Smokler, for those who are available. And if you missed any of these sessions, by the way, gentle reminder, they're all recorded. They're all on our YouTube channel. If you want to revisit any of them anytime, they're yours to use to practice. So thanks especially to all of you just for being here and creating this beautiful community of practice and giving us an opportunity to touch this place together. So many blessings.